Yes, sir. Welcome back to Talkin Nets, episode 59. Keith McPherson and Hudson Flynn coming to you in about the middle of October, a Wednesday morning. Post NBA bubble. The NBA bubble has come to an end. We are now sitting here recording without any NBA basketball being played for the near future. We don't exactly know when the NBA will restart. We think January, but now we're in what would be the NBA summer. This is the NBA fall. It's rumor time. It's speculation time. It's sources time. It's NBA Twitter, Nets Twitter chatter time. And we'll be here to talk about it all the way through. Hudson Flynn, what's going on?
Man, not much. NBA entered its off season, but Woj has entered his season. I'm excited to see what he's got to break. Always got some good stuff going on. Going to be an exciting summer. A lot of fun people to look at. But I'll tell you, sports withdrawal has hit me hard over the course of this weekend and into this week. It's been tough out there. Yankees obviously disgracing the entire city of New York, going out. Getting eliminated by the Rays, who look unbeatable at the moment. I mean, I'm a Giants fan. You're a Cowboys fan. We had a real sad game to watch over the weekend. Obviously, all respect and prayers out to Dak Prescott. As a Giants fan, I don't like him, but as a player, as a leader, he's a great guy. And it's tough. You never want to see anyone go down like that. And, man, the Heat, they made it a series, but they were too tired to bring it past a Game 6. You could tell it was wearing on Jimmy, playing, all but 42 seconds in Game 5. Ridiculous. But now we're kind of left without anything other than the NFL. And, man, I love the NFL, but we went from having all the sports to having significantly less. So that's what's up with me.
Yeah, I feel you, bro. This weekend was a rough weekend for me. Personally, professionally, sports equinox. I fell through the other hole of the sports equinox. You step into the sports equinox and you're like, yeah, we got postseason baseball, NBA finals, week 5 of the NFL, fantasy football, gambling, all types of stuff going on. And then when the Yankees lost Friday, for me, it just sucked the wind out of everything. I'm like, well, fuck baseball. I'm just like, damn, the Yankees come up short again. And Yankees Twitter, everyone's talking about trade rumors and getting rid of guys and firing guys. And I'm just like, I'm going to stay out of this. I'm going to sit back and not do that. What else? NBA Finals. It's tough, man. The NBA Finals ending. You realize it's been a whole year that this team has played a season together, a whole year that these guys have kind of battled through adversity to crown a champion. And now the NBA is over. And, with NFL, you talked about the Cowboys and the Giants game, man, watching Dak Prescott go down. I'm a big Dak guy. I'm a big Dak fan. Just watching that whole scene on Sunday was sombering. For me, I think the Cowboys season is over. I thought it was over, in the first couple of weeks. But watching Dak go down like that, and some people might know about Dak's personal life, his family situation, his contract, all that hit me this weekend. I just was like on the couch, not moving. But yeah, let's move on. Talking about not moving, let's move along. It's 11:11 a.m. And we're going to talk about the best bubble moment. Now that bubble is done, now that the NBA has finished up, you get to really look back on what the bubble was and what they did. And I say it all the time, the NBA leads and everyone else follows. The NBA created their own world. They created their own habitat. They created a coronavirus-free land where they could play basketball and live amongst each other and cover the NBA, and they did it successfully. And it stands as something that was done that other people should look at in this country and see that it is possible. It is doable. We can live with the coronavirus. We can do what we got to do if you take the right precautions, if you test regularly, if you take it seriously, which the NBA did. And the best bubble moment for me, honestly, outside of the Nets, because it's been a while since we've seen the Nets. I will say the best bubble moments for me were watching the Nuggets come back from down 3-1, watching the Nuggets really assert themselves as one of the better teams in this league, and watching guys like Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. Like they have a bunch of guys on that team that they have a bunch of guys on that team that like really got to shine on the national stage that I feel like they didn't get during a regular season. So that was the biggest or best bubble moment for me, watching that Nuggets team. What was your favorite moment from the bubble so far, or not so far, in total now that it's over?
And I mean, first off, my favorite moment was the fact that it worked. Honestly a little pessimistic going in, but the NBA led and set an almost unmeetable standard that now the other sports leagues are trying to live up to and failing to live up to. Obviously, it wouldn't be possible to do an NFL bubble, but watching things happen like the Titans going down for 2 weeks and the effects that had obviously puts into contrast how amazing the NBA was able to do it. But man, the Heat were my bubble story, and obviously they didn't win it all, but they were never going to win it all. They were the Cinderella that made it the whole way, the Cinderella that made it to the finals, and they did a good job of beating the teams in the West that I hate, which was really, really nice for me. I got to watch them beat teams that I don't like too much, and I really don't like many of the teams in the East, but the Heat were a likable team. They were a fun team. And unless they get some big free agent signings, which I think they might, I don't think they're going to be too much of a threat to the Nets next year. And it showed that the East was vulnerable. And, everything I'm seeing, everything a lot of people are seeing, it shows a pretty clear path for your Brooklyn Nets to go, right through the East into the finals. And, man, that's exciting for me. That was good for me to see. That really kept me going through the playoffs, especially looking back on it. You see, the West is a gauntlet. There's now next year probably going to be 4 teams in the West that I can see realistically being able to go to the finals and win it all. You get the Lakers, the Clippers, the Nuggets, and then the Warriors after they're, taking the second overall pick and being healthy. I think they're going to be world beaters next year too. But in the East, I don't know. Giannis doesn't have the help. Boston, I mean, they're on the way up. They're growing, but I don't see it happening for them, even though I think they may be the Nets' best competition. The Heat are on the way down unless they get a free agent signing. I mean, they're being led by Jimmy Butler, but also Goran Dragic, who is 34 and probably on the second half of his career. And I don't know. I just like what I'm seeing from the Nets, in terms of what they can do next year. And this is a Nets podcast, so of course I had to bring it back to the Nets. But it's going to be interesting. And now that we're in the offseason and we can really look at what the NBA landscape is going to be like next year, it's looking pretty good for the boys in black.
Yeah, and how can you not think about what it's going to be like or what the Nets' chances are going to be like? The Lakers just won it. LeBron, he fulfilled his Washed King revenge season prophecy. They pulled off the heist last year, getting Anthony Davis to LA to play alongside LeBron. It took a whole year, but the Lakers get it done. And now people are talking about the Lakers going back to back. Now people are talking about the Lakers doing it again. But there will be some new competition in the way. You mentioned the Warriors. Can't wait to see the West with Steph, Clay, Draymond, whoever they draft coming back. And then, of course, we're Brooklyn Nets fans. This is a Brooklyn Nets podcast. So we are anticipating the Brooklyn Nets to come out of the East. A lot of people are. Maybe we meet the Lakers. Maybe we get that Coastal Finals next season in the Staples Center and the Barclays Center. And we get New York versus LA. I would love to see it. And like you said, I think what this year showed in the East with the Lakers, or with the Heat coming out to face the Lakers, is that the East is vulnerable. And a lot of people are saying that the Heat are the number one destination for free agents like Giannis Antetokounmpo or like Victor Oladipo or whoever. And, I mean, this Heat team as currently constructed is a good team, a great team, let's say. But I don't know if they're going to be able to knock off the Lakers ever if they were to get back. And I think they're going to have a challenge with KD and Kyrie and the rest of the Brooklyn Nets. So I mean, it's awesome to think about. But right now, everybody's thinking about and talking about the Lakers winning the finals and, LeBron getting his fourth chip and guys like Danny Green getting their third and Rondo getting his second and, him putting a ring in the hands of one Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard comes back to LA and gets a ring. So it's all about the Lakers right now. Good for LeBron. Good for Jeannie Buss,
Absolutely good for Jeannie Buss.
the first woman owner, first female NBA owner to win a championship, the first championship the Lakers win since the passing of her father. I don't know. I'm not a Lakers fan, but I respect the Lakers organization. I'm a LeBron fan. I'm happy to see them win it. I'm happy to see them celebrate it. Danny Green, I'm glad they did win, and they can put that Danny Green missed shot game in the past. I feel like people were ODing with that. They were doing too much, hating on Danny Green, and I saw some people that were like coming at his wife online, and people were sending threats, and it's like, yo, come on, you guys, you're up in the series. You're gonna win the series. You didn't win it in the Mamba jerseys. Danny Green missed the shot, but you came out right away in Game 6, and you had the energy, you had immediate defense, and imposed your will and dominated to win that game. And hey, I said Lakers maybe in 5 if they gentlemen sweep. I said potentially 6. I never saw it going 7. Lakers win the 2020 NBA Finals in 6 games, and it is no asterisk next to this finals. The more and more I think about it, the more and more I talk about it, I think that this was a greater NBA Finals championship than any other championship. I spoke with Adam Arbrecht on Sportscaster about how, people are doing the LeBron Jordan debate. And I'm like, well, Jordan would have never survived in a bubble. Jordan needed to go to Atlantic City between games 4 and 5 to get a break from it all, to escape from it all. In the bubble, there is no escape. You are trapped in the bubble for 3 months, and all of these guys had to commit. All of these guys had to, buy in for the whole time, make it about basketball every day to win the championship, and they did. I don't know. I'll let you get your thoughts before I segue into Avery Bradley talk, one of the guys that didn't join the Lakers. They definitely needed him, but they got it done without him. But Avery Bradley held it down outside the bubble, and, I mean, he deserves to get some credit for what he did. But just any thoughts on the Lakers winning the NBA Finals?
I mean, I got to give them their credit. I thought it was the Clippers' thing to lose going in. I still do believe that the Clippers did lose it more so than anything else. But they went out and they did what was like their job. They went and they converted every chance they got. Whenever the series would get close, they shut it down. They shut it down. Obviously, you look back on the AD shot in the Mamba jersey against the Nuggets as being a real pivotal moment. I think after that shot fell, it became clear that, you knew what was going to happen next. The Heat, obviously, all credit to them for being able to get there and being able to even push it to 6 games. All credit to Jimmy Butler. Heat are on the rise. But the Lakers did it. And like you mentioned, and I just have to shout out Jeannie Buss. She is really another person who's opening doors in the NBA and across sports to a lot of people. And I heard so many people talk about it. I heard Magic Johnson go on First Take, and he talked about how now girls can, look up and they can say, I can do that too. And there's a figure that they can look at and see, she went out, she followed in her father's legacy. She overtook the struggles that she had with her brother to take control of the franchise. Yep. And she got it done all the way. And she's not a hands-off owner. She was not just supplying the money and letting whatever happen. She got that done just as much as anyone else in that locker room or in the front office. And so absolutely all credit to her. Amazing for Anthony Davis. You knew he was going to win it eventually, but he showed how dominant he was. And I think he did, like I said in the last episode, have a real claim to that finals MVP. I understand why it was given to LeBron. That makes sense. But you can't understate what he did for that team, and you can't understate what all those players did for that team. I think Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has like the second most three-pointers in a playoff run for the Lakers now, just behind Kobe Bryant, which is insane considering we went into this playoffs, and especially me was talking about how they need that secondary three-point shooting to heat up for them to win. And Davius Caldwell-Pope sat in the corner and drilled threes consistently, which shows you need that secondary, tertiary option to be able to win a finals. And, looking at Joe Harris, who hasn't been signed, obviously priority number one for the Nets as the offseason truly begins. You need someone like that. You need someone like that to step up. You need someone like playoff Rondo who can step in and be that student of the game. And obviously we'll get into some greatness talk, some GOAT talk and stuff about Avery Bradley. So we're not going to finish with this conversation, but the Lakers did it and they won, potentially the hardest championship to win, just considering everything else that was going on. Yes, there was no travel. Yes, you got to stay in one place and stay all the time with your team. But sometimes that change of scenery, sometimes, getting away from it all can help players. Obviously, it helped someone like Dennis Rodman who, needed to jet off and, blow off some steam during during his season. But it was just impressive all around, impressive for the NBA, impressive for the Lakers. But Lakers, it's time for you to move aside. Then it's the next season, Nets season.
Yeah, we gotta go into the season, talking heavy, like, hey, we're here, we're coming out of the East, and good for the Lakers, for Kobe, for Gianna, a year where we lose Kobe and Gianna, and we all tune in to watch LeBron speak on Kobe and the Lakers go forward after a game being canceled, and them kind of dedicating this season to Vanessa Bryant, her daughters, that whole family. For, like you mentioned, Rondo said he knew he had to get with a guy like LeBron, and they would win it because just the mental aspect of the game. And then the role players like the KCPs, even Danny Green, who got a lot of hate, he did what he had to do throughout the run. And even like Alex Caruso, Kyle Kuzma, these guys are all champions now. Going into the season, I know you might have seen that video that has been circulating about where they projected the Lakers to be going into the season. And, just some of the haters. And it's good for LA. It's good for California. Magic Johnson, I laugh because Magic Johnson, he knew this was coming. Like, he had to get out of the way for this to happen. He got LeBron to come there, but he had to get out of the way for them to make the deal. Rob Pelinka made the deal. LeBron said something about the Lakers fans. Laker Nation wants their respect. Rob Pelinka wants his respect, and LeBron wants his respect too. And respect to Rob Pelinka, who they said FaceTimed Avery Bradley and, basically called him in to say, like, hey, man, like, you're a part of this too. He's going to get a ring as well. And they did it without him, but they still respect his decision. I respect his decision as a man. He held it down. And what he did was donate over $30,000 with his wife to the NBA bubble, where obviously you all know
the WNBA bubble.
The WNBA bubble. Where obviously that, like, these women that are playing in the WNBA bubble, they're not making the same amount of money, even close to what the NBA players are making. A lot of them are mothers, have children. And, Avery Bradley and Kyrie were kind of on that same page going into the bubble. And I like that Avery Bradley, he literally is showing you, hey, there are bigger things. I know that I'm on the team with LeBron and AD that could potentially win a championship. Of course, every NBA player wants to win an NBA championship, but Avery Bradley decided now wasn't the time. He decided now was the time to help people in need, and he gave up his spot to do that. And I'm sure he helped a lot of people, and a lot of people are thankful of him. What did you think about?
Sure helped J.R. Smith.
I
forgot to include J.R. Smith on my rant.
Two-time world champion.
J.R. Smith is. We're going to have the GOAT conversation later. J.R. Smith has to be in that conversation. The man went from sitting on the streets for the entire season, being unsigned, and then just slithering his way into the bubble. And that man was the first Laker to touch the Larry O'Brien trophy during the presentation. And, goddamn if you can't respect J.R. Smith for being able to do that. I hope to one day have that level of confidence, of charisma, of respect in the league to be able to just come on,
jerseys
and be like, it's the Jersey energy. It's the hustler mentality. I love it. Shout out J.R. Smith, but obviously Avery Bradley. as Nets fans, we are very supportive of a lot of the efforts that the NBA and a lot of NBA players make in the community. And Avery Bradley just continued that legacy. And I love what he's doing. Obviously, always all respect to the WNBA. Him and Kyrie are really beating that drum hard. Obviously, we got to talk about all the stuff that Kyrie has done, all of the philanthropy that he's done. And looking back on it, now that we finished the bubble, we've crowned a champion. Let's look back on the conversations that people were having about, should we go to the bubble? Is now the time? And I think what happened was the best possible scenario. We had the basketball, which gave a lot of players a platform to speak on issues, but we also had those players who decided, you know what, now isn't the time for basketball. And they made that effort and they worked in their community, but that didn't take away from anything that happened in the bubble. It built upon it, and it built upon the efforts of the NBA and of the players in the NBA. And it's just more credit to the NBA, to the players of the NBA, to all of the people that made it happen. Obviously, you have to give a shout out to the commissioner. He went out and he even gave $1,000 bonuses to all the NBA personnel who helped make this happen. Another example that, best commissioner in sports by a long shot. I can't think of anyone who's close. And it's just great. And it's good to see that the NBA can have this dual focus. They can focus on doing their jobs and playing basketball, but also make an effort in their community and make real change, because this is real change, whether it's giving money to the WNBA, putting a spotlight on women's sports, whether it's Kyrie donating 200,000 meals to people during the coronavirus economic crash. It's just, it shows that these are good people and they're people that you can root for. It's a league that you can root for. And I love it. I can't say any more about it, just other than absolutely 10 out of 10. Well done to the NBA and to the players.
Yeah, I think it's something that over time it'll grow as far as how much people respect and appreciate what was done in Orlando over the last 3 months. And, longer, July, August, September, October, almost 4 months, over 4 months, because they reported like July 7th, I remember. So that's a big commitment. That's a big chunk out of this 2020 year that was crazy for so many people. So shout out to the NBA once again. Shout out to Avery Bradley doing what he could do. And, now in the lore of NBA and NBA postseason, NBA playoffs, finals, they're going to talk about this 2020 chip. And I saw some people trying to, which they're always going to do, and we're not going to spend too much time on this, but people try to downplay it. I saw some people saying, oh, no, it was, what's the name? Stool Presidente from Barstool was like, oh, the Lakers won an AAU championship. They won a tournament. Nah, it was not some type of AAU tournament. Like, have you ever been to AAU tournaments? Like, these guys are grown men. They're professional athletes. They're millionaires. They just spent all this time away from their family. They spent all this time in isolation, not getting to do what they please between games, literally having to see their opponents, rub shoulders with their opponents in the same space. Like, that's a little different energy. And I honestly think this 2020 championship, which it took a whole year, because this time last year, the Nets and the Lakers were playing in China, and those games were about to get postponed over, I think, Daryl Morey and the Rockets and their comments. I don't even remember now. It was a fast year. It was around the time we were starting to talk about making Talkin Nets a thing. And fast forward to now, LeBron is crowned as the champion, and this LeBron-Jordan debate is starting to swing for a lot of people. And I don't know if it was the fact that he had half as many rings, right, 6-3, and now he has 4, so people are like he's gaining on him with a chance to make it potentially 5 in the next couple years. But for me, it's LeBron, and I don't care to go back and forth with anybody, and I also don't care to state my case too much. But when I look at it, there's just so many things that LeBron has done on and off the court that Jordan didn't do. And Jordan, I will have to say, over time, like, he did it with one team, but he had the luxury of doing it with one team. He had the luxury of being in an organization that got the best talent around him, that gave him a Scottie Pippen, that gave him guys like Steve Kerr that could knock down shots when he's double teamed, triple teamed. You know, when I saw Danny Green miss that shot, and then I saw Markieff Morris throw a terrible pass, I'm like, Jordan had better role players. That game would have been over for Jordan's Bulls. So the scale is tipped in my favor, or in LeBron's favor, in my opinion. And I think I put in the notes this like graphic from the score where like men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And it basically is just showing you like all of the numbers that LeBron has and dominates over Jordan. And it's not even close. Obviously, people are going to, you know, they're going to die on the Jordan Hill versus LeBron Hill. I'm lucky enough to say that I watched Jordan as a kid in elementary school, into middle school. And then I got to watch LeBron in middle school into high school to now I'm a grown man. I've watched and been a witness to LeBron. What LeBron has done in his career and he's not done, to me, is greater than MJ. They're both GOATs, but LeBron is the greatest NBA player we have ever seen on the court, off the court. Just an all-around icon and leader. And if anyone disagrees, that's cool. You can hold that. I'm telling you, LeBron is the king. Long live the king. He is the greatest we have ever seen. Just respect greatness, or, you know, don't compare at all. I saw a lot of people saying, let's not compare at all, but you know it's going to happen forever. What side of the debate are you on, Hudson, LeBron or Jordan?
I mean, for me, I fall in part of the camp where it's hard to compare. To me, LeBron is, you know, nobody has been as good at so many things as LeBron. You looked at the numbers. LeBron is just across the board, in my opinion, the best NBA player of all time. Nobody has done it quite as much as him. He's the career GOAT. It's a debate between him and Kareem, and I think he edges out Kareem. Obviously, other than, you know, the scoring, but him and Kareem are the two career GOATs for me. The GOAT conversation to me hinges on playoff success. MJ was 6 for 6. To me, that's hard to argue with. I don't. Obviously, I'm not attempting to disrespect LeBron. LeBron, you know, is like, you know, give me my respect, and I am respecting LeBron. He is the career GOAT and the second, you know, playoff GOAT of all time. I don't think that's a slight to LeBron. I don't think that's a slight to MJ. Well, you know what you said, to put LeBron above him. I don't think that's a slight to anyone. It's, you know, the two biggest heads on the Mount Rushmore of basketball. But to me, there is goodness and there's, you know, talent, and then there's greatness, and that's playoff greatness. And I think Jordan falls into that category. But honestly, this debate to me is not very fun. It's not anything that I'm too into, you know, really, you know, getting into the nitty gritty on. I'm never going to go out there like a Skip Bayless and say, you know, all that nonsense that he says. And I'm never going to go out there and say something like what Stephen A. Smith says, that LeBron will never pass MJ, because who knows? Maybe he will. LeBron doesn't look like he's slowing down anytime soon. I don't know. The debate, honestly, to me, is starting to get a little old, if only because, you know, you talked about what you've grown up with. My era is the Jordan LeBron GOAT debate era. I've been talking about this since I was in elementary school. I've had to have an opinion on this, you know, sitting around the lunch table. This is all people would talk about. But at this point, I'm getting a little tired of it. And maybe things will change. Maybe they won't for me. But at the end of the day, that it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, I feel you, bro. And there's always going to be someone with a counterpoint. Like, it's the never ending discussion. And I'm definitely tired of it too. Like, but like I'm saying, I made my mind up. And I guess I needed this fourth ring for LeBron to do that. But let's talk about your boy Mo Spates. You guys might remember this guy, big man, played for the Warriors, came out and disrespected LeBron. He put out a tweet where he says, just the messenger. Back then, we used to celebrate three-peats, and it's got a picture of Kobe and it's got a picture of MJ celebrating, you know, winning 3 championships. Now, I just think that shit is weak. Honestly, it's like different eras, different leagues. Like, the NBA changes so much every couple years. I think the standard of, staying with one team and winning those championships, that was the way. That's not the way of the NBA for the last decade. And looking at Kobe and Jordan, yeah, when you look at those two guys one-to-one, Kobe was chasing Jordan. He was going to play in one jersey, one organization, and try and get 6 rings. He got 5. I don't think that LeBron falls into that category. I think he's in a greater category. What'd you think about Mo Spates just trying to, like, I guess, get retweets and clicks with that, baiting people into that conversation about, oh, well, like, LeBron never three-peated. LeBron's been to 10 finals, bro. Every year LeBron is in the finals. Last year, I forget who I was talking to. I was like, last year I was at Bonnaroo. I didn't even watch the finals. You know why? I didn't care because LeBron wasn't in it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not all of that, into LeBron. Definitely not as much as you are. He's a great player. To me, he's not, my favorite. He's not the most electrifying player to watch, but that's just aside from everything. Mo Spates, I guess, good job. We're talking about you. We mentioned your name. You got your clout, even though now he's like private on all of his social media because he got a little too much clout, flew too close to the sun.
Too much smoke.
Yeah, no, dumb. But like you said, it's a different standard. It's a different time. You can't put LeBron in the era that Jordan was in. You can't put Jordan in the era that LeBron was in. It just wouldn't work. It's not compatible. If you're looking for a comparison, it's honestly, Jordan and Kobe, just because of the eras that they played in and the type of players that they tried to be. But you can't compare them. And, I think it's just a trend across sports that people will fall into that trap. And it's just the wrong trap to fall into. Like, even us as Yankees fans, the Yankees will talk about, we won how many, 27 rings in the playoffs, but that's not enough to keep fans happy when you haven't won in, 10 plus years, right? There's just different standards for the different times. And I think people need to understand that and just take a little more nuance in these conversations. It's not all black and white. Nothing is so binary, straightforward. Just like have a little like understanding of, some other factors other than, look at the stats, look at the rings, look at the record. It's just have a little nuance. And honestly, as much as we talk about it, I'm just going to say what I said before. I'm done with this. It's just, to me, it's over. Mo Spates, congratulations. You got your clicks, but for what?
Another debate that I'm over and I'm done talking about because everybody tries to twist it is the NBA Finals and their ratings. Before I speak on Mark Cuban and the next topic we're going to talk about, I want to say this. The NBA Finals, and it's so stupid that we have to even break this down for people. The NBA Finals was played in Orlando in a bubble for the first time ever. The NBA Finals was also played in October for the first time ever. It's different, right? It'd be different if we watched these games in Miami and in LA. It'd be different if this was in American Airlines Arena and the Staples Center. It was not. It was on campus at Kissimmee, Florida, in Orlando, and the NBA Finals had to compete with the MLB postseason. The NBA Finals had to compete with the NFL. And whatever other shows or sports are on, I think the WNBA just finished. Like, what I'm saying is the NBA Finals, I saw someone compare, when Jordan was in the finals, 30 million people watched it in 98. You know how far we are from that? You know how many different options there are for people? People didn't have on-demand Netflix and streaming options back then. It was cable where, the number one thing that everyone's watching on cable, like the finals were closer to the Super Bowl. People trying to twist this and saying that this is, the NBA lost its fans. It drove away fans because of the social stance and the NBA players' politics are different than their fan base. No, they're not. Like, that's not the reason. And I find it funny that people are denying the ratings that the finals have gotten in China and how much the fan base in China was demanding the finals be shown there after the issues about a year ago that we talked about that the NBA and China had. The NBA repaired their relationship with China through helping with the coronavirus pandemic. The NBA shared some resources and some information and some knowledge that China said, you know what, these guys aren't half bad. They might not feel so high or they might not feel so great or think so highly of the United States and our president, But the NBA as an association, as a company, as a business, as a brand was okayed in China. They put the finals on. And I think they said something like it was the most watched program of the year, one of the top watched programs of the year in China. So I guess let's talk about Mark Cuban ripping the NBA for doing a bad job marketing the finals. He tried to say something along the lines like, we didn't have the storylines. The NBA didn't do enough. What are you talking about? The biggest name in the NBA is the king, LeBron James, going to seek his fourth title, his first title with the Lakers, a storied franchise that would hoist their 17th championship, which ties them for most all-time with the Celtics, versus the Miami Heat, LeBron's former team, a team that put together a bunch of new players for the first time this year. I thought the storylines were there. I thought it had the attention, but competition is competition. People are going to watch what they want to watch. And I don't think it necessarily has to do with the NBA not marketing. The NBA is huge. They market through ESPN. They market through Disney. I saw advertisements for the finals on everything. If you guys listen to Big Sean and you heard the Big Sean Detroit 2 album, that song Don Life got put on all of the NBA finals marketing. And you heard that song every commercial break, no matter what you were watching. So I don't know. What do you think about Mark Cuban ripping the NBA? I think maybe he's just a little tight about what we talked about last episode with Ted Cruz taking shots at the NBA for saying, like, get woke, go broke, and make it a politics issue.
Well, it's definitely a money thing, too. I mean, he is, a recipient of some of the money that the NBA would have gotten if they could have marketed it better. But at the end of the day, there's so much that they had to compete with. There's so much that they had to do that they just weren't able to do because of the circumstances that were all good. And the NBA is like the number one emerging sport across the world. It's getting to be huge in Europe. It's getting to be huge in Asia and China. And that's big. But also we had the Nations League, the UEFA Nations League. And let me tell you, international soccer and national team soccer is way bigger in Europe than the NBA will ever be. Right. So that was going on at the same time of the finals. That's a huge market drop. We only had the NBA being broadcast in China for some of the games. And so you're losing out on that audience. And it has nothing to do with the social justice message. It has nothing to do with anything. There's no asterisk next to the championship. The Lakers won a championship fair and square, but there's an asterisk next to these numbers. Like, it wouldn't make sense for them to do that. They usually, in a normal year, they only have to compete with the NHL. And all respect to my NHL, I love the NHL. I love hockey. It's my favorite sport. They're not going to have that same kind of a draw as the NBA is going to have. And so they don't usually have to compete with, like, even the things that are on just regular, like, TV. Like, we talked about last week, The Masked Singer. Like, there's all these other things that they have to compete with that they normally don't have to compete with. And, like, also shout out to The Masked Singer. I had a revelation. I didn't know that Victor Oladipo could sing.
No,
did you know that? Did you know?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Like, so I actually can sing pretty well.
Yeah, like, he sings like classically sings. He was on The Masked Singer, and I was watching him, and I was like, damn, Victor Oladipo, like, shit.
Yeah.
I did not know that, but
he got a shout out on Game of Zones. There's a part of Game of Zones where they, like, made a joke about Victor Oladipo performing, and they're like, no, he's pretty good, like, not just like NBA player good, like, just pretty good singer.
Yeah, I do remember that. I didn't know the context. Now I know the context. I'm like, damn, like, he can sing and he can play, but, like, impressive. All credit to him. Absolutely, that's talent. But no, the NBA had so much to compete with. They had so many things going on. It just wasn't the year for them to have the big ratings. But what it was a year for them to have was a massive growth in respect from the people who, are smart enough to give them the respect that they deserve.
Yeah, and I'm glad that the finals went 6 games so we could get that Sunday night. But then when you get that Sunday night, I was watching ALCS Game 1 Rays Astros, which I watched maybe the first inning of that, and I was like, I can't stand to watch either one of these teams, so I tuned out of that. Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, I turned that game off thinking the Vikings were going to win that game, and I got Russell in fantasy. I wanted to see Russ go 5-0, and I turned that game off in disgust. I'm like, they can't even beat the Vikings right now? What's going on? So I was tuned in because one thing I love about sports is watching teams accept their championship trophy, watching the team realize that they did it, that they got to the top of the mountain. And yeah, I don't know. I just think that like you said, there's an asterisk next to these ratings because this is the first time ever we've had the finals in October, and there was a lot on TV to compete with. The Masked Singer is like the #1 show I've never seen an episode of. But either way, Mark Cuban had a lot to say about that, and he had a lot to say in the past couple of weeks about one Delonte West. He tweeted out an update. So we have a Delonte West update for you. It says, from Mark Cuban's Twitter, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Delonte West, a long, long, long way to go, but he has taken the first steps and shared these with all of us as a thank you for the love and support. And I guess they took Delonte West to Old Town Road. They got him on a horseback. They got him out there getting some fresh air, connecting with animals. You love to see it.
I love it. I love to see it, and we've kind of been sticking with this story, and I'm happy about it. It pays to have friends in high places, right? He's at that fancy rehab. I love it, but no, good for him. He is, getting back on the right path. More credit to Mark Cuban showing that he's a great guy. He takes care of his guys, and I love it. Good for Delonte. Good for him getting his life back in order. Good for Mark Cuban, going out there and making a real difference, outside of basketball. Like we said, like we always talk about, things are bigger than basketball, and this is clearly bigger than basketball. And especially, with a lot of the conversations about mental health in sports coming into it, there's little doubt that had a role that was played in the Delonte West situation. And now seeing things happen to people like Dak Prescott, who has had to deal with mental health problems, Kevin Love, all of these players, I think it's good. I think it's an awakening across the sports world. It's starting to become an end to that long era of toxic masculinity where people, are like, no, you play sports. You're the quarterback for America's team. You can't have feelings. Like, just clown stuff. And it's good. I'm glad, the world and everyone is moving in the right direction in terms of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's solid to see the change happening and the conversations changing about masculinity, about mental health, about drug abuse, about, just realizing that everyone is human, no matter what talents or skills they have, no matter how great they are at a sport, they're still human beings. They still feel, they still hurt, they still need help. Kyrie was talking about that. Like, he basically was saying, like, yeah, we're superheroes to some people, but that's just because we put the time in to be good at a sport. But that's not all that we are. Like, we're human too, and there's deeper things in that. And Kyrie is also, I really want to talk about this. I think he's got to be part of the Brooklyn Nets embracing their New Jersey roots. They even used his voice on that tweet that I put in the notes, where they show the shape of the New Jersey state, and then it morphs into the shape of the Brooklyn borough. And I love that we're getting to see the Brooklyn Nets rep New Jersey. I know we'll never see New Jersey across the chest, but that is fine. Do not act like the last 8 years in Brooklyn is all that the franchise has. The franchise has a long history in New Jersey, and there's a lot of us that became fans of the team when it was in New Jersey that are from New Jersey. I'm proud to see the Nets bringing back the blue unis, the Drazen famous unis, the Kenny Anderson unis, and even on their social media playing into it. And they show you, like, you go from Brooklyn to Manhattan through the tunnel, boom, you're in Jersey. It's not that far, a hop, skip, and a jump. And they're really starting to play into that New Jersey roots. That makes me proud. As a New Jersey native, born and raised, and as someone that was definitely upset at first when Jay-Z said he was moving the Nets to BK, I was like, come on, man. Now all we got is the Devils.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a New Jersey guy the same way you are. Honestly, I haven't spent that much time in New Jersey. But I like it. I like it because we're getting some very nice jerseys out of it. I'm very excited to purchase one of those jerseys. Hopefully, I can get one with 2 2s on the back. I mean, if we can get a Karras jersey, if he can stay on the Nets, a conversation for later. But I would just love to be able to get that jersey. I hope that someday they'll be mature enough to bring back the jerseys from the time that Vince Carter was here. I love those jerseys. Those are my go-to Nets 2K jerseys, actually. And I'm just a big fan of it. I like all of the opportunities it's bringing. I like that it's expanding the fan base back to people, who were there before, who were there, in the Nets glory days. And hopefully, we can even bring that connection to have a little more, just a little more growth as a fan base, a little more growth as the Nets. I think repairing those a little bit fractured bonds like you talked about is nothing but good for the Nets. And obviously, if we're going to have Kyrie, a New Jersey guy who, is coming to the Nets and showing those roots, we got to do it. And I'm glad that they did.
Yeah, they only put one jersey out from those blue jerseys. They've only put one jersey out, and it's Kyrie, which makes me believe that on the inside, whether he is the one having the discussions or whether the organization is talking about it, like, hey, one of our leaders is from New Jersey and followed the team as a kid. Like, we need to tap into that, especially as we go into this next season where, hey, we're looking for everybody to pile on, join the bandwagon. Like, New York, New Jersey, your team is the Brooklyn Nets. You will have one of the most competitive teams in the league, and we're bringing in everybody in the tri-state area. And also, we're looking to bring in other coaches. This morning, right before we got on here, I saw a tweet from one Frank Isola. Some of you guys might know Frank Isola from Around the Horn, writing about New York basketball. And I think Frank was on some of the Brooklyn Nets pre- and post-game shows. But he writes, Mike D'Antoni and Phil Handy are both potential candidates to join Steve Nash's coaching staff in Brooklyn, according to a source. Hey, good enough. Good enough for me. I don't need to know the exact source. Like I said, we are in the NBA summer. It's the first NBA fall where we're not in preseason. We're not overseas. Everyone is now stepping into the NBA summer where we're talking about free agency and trades and the draft. Man, start it up. What are you thinking about Mike D'Antoni and Phil Handy possibly joining the Nets, one or the other? I don't think they're saying both. I think they're saying one or the other. I heard a lot of chatter out there about, Mike D'Antoni should be a head coach in this league, but where are those vacancies? Where is he going to, land a job right now? Nobody's really sure. And as far as Phil Handy's concerned, there's a lot of talk about the team has been working out in L.A. The team has been training in L.A. We heard Katie and Kyrie talk about that. I heard Katie mention that on Joe Budden's show that the team has been working out in L.A. and Phil Handy, I think, has been around them for some of that, or maybe not. No, Phil Handy is, I don't know, he's a player's coach. He wouldn't be around. I don't know if he would be around their workouts, but there's some connection between Phil Handy and the team working out in L.A.
Damn, well, the connection is at least the fact that the Nets might be dropping 120 points a game if that's the coaching staff that we're bringing in.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I mean, damn, we're making some moves, and like we've talked about, obviously, with the situation of our assistant coaching staff, we're going to need a strong assistant coaching staff to be able to give our rookie head coach that kind of support. And that's huge to be able to have a coaching staff like that. And I like that we're reaching out to former players, because if you look at the players on our roster, the issues have come up when there has been a disconnect between the coaching staff and the players, and the systems that are being run and what the players want to run. And we're bringing in players, coaches, and whether they're players, coaches, for the offense, for the defense, for whatever, they're players, coaches. And that's huge when you have someone like KD, who just recently said that he's not planning on, using that player option in his contract. He wants to end his career in Brooklyn. And if he's going to do that, he needs to have coaches that he's on the same page with. And I think that we can provide that while also having potentially the best assistant coaching staff in the league. And we also, right before we came on this podcast, we saw that Dirk Nowitzki, he did say no because he wants to stay in Dallas, major homer guy. He was also offered to come on the Brooklyn Nets coaching staff. And I like it. I like that we're bringing in former players who have, been to that pinnacle, have been to the mountaintop, know what winning is, know how to win. And that's what we need in Brooklyn. A lot of people are talking about the moves we're going to make in the offseason. Are we going to trade away Karras? What are we going to do with Joe Harris? Who cares? We're making our offseason moves in the coaching staff. And I think that's what's the biggest, because we have proven winners on this team. We have NBA champions, NBA finals MVPs. We have that. What we need now is that greatness, that winning mentality in the coaching staff. And that's what we're doing. And that's what we're getting with these, potential signings.
Right, right. The leadership, the guys behind the scenes. We've got the talent on the court, but they're trying to shore up Steve Nash's bench. If this is Steve Nash's first year as a head coach and he's looking down there and he's got Jacques Vaughn and Mike D'Antoni or Phil Handy, like he's got these guys with him, fret not. He's not going to ever be in a situation alone. He's not going to ever be in a situation too big for his coaches and the players. So the Brooklyn Nets, man, I like what they're doing. Don't be surprised. They've pulled off some great moves and additions to get us this far. They're not done. And if I see a Mike D'Antoni as an assistant coach with the Nets, where, this guy has got head coaching, so much head coaching respect, pedigree, experience. You put him on this bench with Jacques Vaughn, Steve Nash. We've got the guys. I saw some jokes about like, oh, which day of the week will he be coaching? I guess referring to, Kyrie saying, hey, one day I could be the head coach. This would be the head coach. It's going to be a collaborative effort. It's going to be great basketball minds figuring out how to win. This perfect example to shout out Frank Vogel. I got some respect for that guy. I think LeBron said something about give him his respect for Frank Vogel too. I've got more respect for him after this whole series and them, just showing how he calls, plays, how he talks to the team. And he seems like a guy that stays out of the way, but he they don't lose back-to-back games. The Lakers don't lose back-to-back games. And that's because these guys really go in and study the film and get these guys prepared the next day. And you need guys like that are quietly there, sharing their expertise. He's a guy, that they said did the work. Yeah, he probably did the film study and did the X's and O's work to make sure these guys were prepared. And that's what the Nets are going to need. We got all the talent. We don't necessarily need to go make another splash as far as bringing in another player. We need to make sure that these players have the right leadership and coaching to get them to the mountaintop next year. And, man, I can't wait for it. All right, let's wrap this thing up. Yeah, no, I mean, like, that's why I just had to shout out Vogel, because people wanted to say from the jump, LeBron's the coach of this team. It doesn't matter who's coach, Frank Vogel, Jason Kidd, whatever. Like, nah, it does matter. You do need somebody that's going to do the film work, do the work behind the scenes to help the team. So if we can get the squad to do that for the Nets, which it seems like they're putting together, perfect. Can't wait for it. Excited for it. All right, wrapping this thing up. Leave us a voicemail. We got to try and get some voicemails. Now that baseball's over, I'm going to lean back into our social media a little bit. The voicemail is 201-870-0461. Whatever you want to talk about, call in, leave us a voicemail. Make sure you follow us at Talkin Nets on Instagram and Twitter. Make sure you follow the brand, the company, at John Boy Media. Subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. John Boy Media is across platforms. You can follow me at Keith McPherson on Instagram, Twitter. Hudson Flynn, tell the people where they can follow you.
Man, you already said it. Hudson Flynn _ Instagram, Twitter.
Woo! Make sure you subscribe to the pod. We're going to keep it running through this off season. A lot of things moving, a lot of things changing, but we will be coming to you at least once a week to talk about the NBA news, and most importantly, your Brooklyn Nets. Leave us a rating. It helps the pod. 2020 is going to come to a close, and we're going to review everything at John Boy Media. And I'm sure we'll be talking business with people, and they're going to look at the pod, and they're going to see how many ratings and reviews we have in 1 year. We're coming up on 1 year since this pod started, which is crazy. Leave us a review, leave us a rating, help us out. And if you do that and you hit me up, I got no problem hooking you up, sending you a Talkin Nets t-shirt, because we want you to swag. We want you to wear the brand. Hopefully we can get back into the Barclays Center. We can do some events in 2021. We can meet some of you guys. We can connect with you guys in real life, because honestly, after this whole year of these streams and Zooms and digital stuff, I'm over it, man. So Talkin Nets, fam, we shall see you soon. We'll see you next week. Let's go Nets. Brooklyn.